everybody, and welcome to a very special Remote North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I have Jer.
Hello.
Alex.
Hey.
And Wheeler.
I can't believe I didn't have to shower for this.
Yeah, I'm not even wearing pants. Reminder, the North 100 is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Now, we have a very, very special episode today. There's a new set that people just aren't talking about. So we are now post Theros Beyond Death. Ikoria isn't out there, and nobody is talking about Homelands.
It's a real sleeper. We're very fortunate to be able to get a podcast in on this, because I don't know that there's many other series that have even covered this at all in any format.
It's a bit of a shining light in these dark times as well to get a set that's as rich as Homelands.
Seems to be a lot of flavor in here, a lot of lore, a lot of storytelling, and I'm excited to see how it starts to change the Canadian Highlander metagame. Maybe we're going to see some new top tier decks come out, maybe a new meta, maybe some new tribes. Anybody have anything they want to add in before we jump right into the set review?
I had to bite my tongue when you said tribes.
I'm just really excited for another, as you say, super powerful set following up Eldraine and Theros Beyond Death, War of the Spark. Following up that 2019 Magic with, equally as powerful.
We'll see if the power creep keeps going. Maybe there'll be some new pointed cards that come up here. And a reminder for all of our Highlander set reviews, these are not exhaustive. We go by color, and we evaluate the cards from the Canadian Highlander point of view. So even if something's really good in Modern or Legacy or Vintage, if we don't think it's going to make an impact in our format, we're not going to talk about it. So let's jump right into it with our first white card, Aysen Crusader. Now, this is a 4-mana, 2+star, interesting templating, gets you a human knight. Power and toughness are equal to 2 plus the number of soldiers and warriors you control. Interesting tribal card. Alex, what do you think?
I mean, the potential for it having tons and tons of toughness is huge. This is just it's going to be a brick wall against a lot of aggressive decks, and it also it goes upstairs. I don't know what's not to like.
Yeah, fantastic.
Ancient 2-mana is pretty important for this kind of thing. You're already going to be playing some number of heroes in your deck, and you're not including them because of that, but you'll take that tribal synergy as a benefit, right?
Next up, we have Aysen Highway, 6-mana enchantment for 3 white. All white creatures gain Planeswalk. Now, I'm going to grab this one. It's an enchantment. And honestly, I think this is the finisher that Enchantress has been looking for. Once you're slamming down that Opalescence, a lot of your big threats are actually white enchantments.
Absolutely.
And, giving your Opalescence, giving your Moat these big white threats, the ability to sort of punch through. I mean, white is already one of the top colors in the meta, and giving them that sort of evasion as a finisher is pretty exciting. Anybody else think this is going to see play anywhere outside of that?
This is the craziest new get for Academy Rector. It's bananas. You're playing white creatures anyway, because you're on Rector, and then just everything that you get past that is unblockable.
It's worth noting too that the templating of this is a nice change where it doesn't say other white creatures gain Planeswalk.
Symmetrical.
But also if you animate this, then you just have a 6/6 Planeswalker.
Oh, actually, that's some really important templating there as well. All right, let's move on to, and I always mess up the pronunciation here, I'll do my best. Hasdur the Abbot. This is a 5-mana legend for 3 white, gets you a 2/5, and for X and tap, redirect to Hasdur the Abbot, X damage dealt to any white creatures you control. Ben, what do you think of this card?
This kind of feels like a bit of a slam dunk for the more top-heavy versions of Death and Taxes. 5 toughness is a lot. You're surviving Flame Slash, all the bolts, whatever it may be. And importantly, you are helping other things survive.
This is a grown-up version of Mother of Runes.
Yeah, it's...
Wow.
I mean, it's really just filling that role, because Mum is only ever good when your Aether Vial's at 1, or on the
already
first
in hand.
turn.
You hate to top deck Mother of Runes the later the game goes, right?
She just doesn't do anything, but I think Hasdur ends up providing that utility and also just a beatdown. Like you throw a sword on this dude and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have a pretty aggressively named card here. It's just called Leeches. Leeches is a 3-mana sorcery for 1 white. Target player loses all poison counters, and then Leeches deals that much damage to that player instead. Jer, what do you think about this card?
I could see this seeing play in 2 different decks potentially, either in the Bant Infect builds as a way to sort of, pivot and get there with like the Noble Hierarch, True Name Nemesis beatdown, which we've seen before, or just as a way to just absolutely stymie the Infect decks in your meta. Like, how are they beating this card? Like, they
get to 9 poison and you just get them.
Yeah, the 8 or 9 poison, and you're just like, yeah, I'll take 8 damage. So
it's like, well, start again.
12. Yeah,
it's like one leeches is backbreaking, but like if you snapcaster leeches against infect,
oh my god,
how are they ever doing anything?
Well, they aren't.
Exactly. Or JVP or Gear Hulk, and JVP is actually really good here because Infect traditionally not able to really interact with your JVP. So
really quickly, what's JVP? Just for if people aren't familiar.
Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Oh.
So it's 1 and a blue for a 0/2. It loots when you loot. If you have 5 or more cards in your graveyard, it flips to Jace Telepath Unbound. And then it's a Planeswalker on the other side. +1, give a creature -2/-0 until end of turn. -3, sort of pseudo give a card flashback. It's not exactly flashback, but it's pretty close. And then ultimate, I think, is -8, 9. Whenever you cast a spell, instant or sorcery, any spell, mill target player for 5.
Yeah, I can definitely see some more synergy there. Really powerful threat in this sort of the spells deck. Let's move on to the Samlight Alchemist. This is a 4-mana 0/2 Alchemist. For white and tap, prevent up to 4 damage to a creature that you control. Tap that creature, and the creature does not untap during your next untap phase. Ben, what do you think?
So this is going to kind of draw obvious comparisons to Hasdur. Yep. I think the benefit of this card is that it's a bit easier to cast in something outside of mono white, and obviously being able to protect creatures that aren't white is also a big up. The one issue, like the biggest issue with this card, is that if you're playing it because it's easier to cast outside of like mono white, the fact that your activation costs 2 white might just be too much.
Yeah, so even if you ramp it out with that,
you don't need to hold up X mana though.
Yeah, that's true.
2, so it can be a little more efficient there, but
this card seems bananas in Jeskai Ascendancy.
Yeah.
Wow. Untap it over and over? Good call.
Yeah, and then you just like get to mitigate the like negligible downside.
It does let you get a loop going where if your opponent has hexproof and you have shroud and you're looping like a buyback burn spell to get your Jeskai Ascendancy going, the healer the alchemist rather can actually just protect your creature. So I guess it's worth noting, but I feel like I'm going to be playing Hasdur more than this card.
Sure, that makes sense. All right, let's move on to our next card here, Sara Aviary. This is a 4-mana world enchantment. Very neat. We haven't actually seen a world enchantment in a while. And it reads, creatures with flying get +1/+1. Interesting to note, this is symmetrical. Alex, what do you think?
Blue-white flyers just got a heck of a lot better. It's just like you jam this card. It's an enchantment, so it can't be interacted with by creature removal.
Yeah.
Like, there's other creatures in that deck that are like 4 CMC and fly and pump your whole team and aren't symmetrical, but like they die to Flame Slash.
Now, are you worried at all because this is symmetrical?
Oh, not at all. Like, if you're like the deck you put this in is spec'd all into evasion, and like if your opponent's like Baneslayer or I don't know, like Big Dumb Dragon gets an extra point of damage in, you don't really care.
It's kind of nice that if like the deck that Alex is referring to, you're going to struggle to like a really quick copy of the Abyss from your opponent, and being able to just slam another enchant world to get rid of it.
Good call.
It's just kind of like an added recovery kind of tool for a deck that doesn't really get those that often.
I don't know if many people know about the enchant world rule.
I mean, luckily we've got a bunch of judges in here. I was actually going to ask Jared, do you want to tell people really quickly how world enchantments work?
Yeah, so there can only be one world enchantment in play at any given time. And when you play a world enchantment and there's one already in play, the older one gets, I believe it
as a state-based action?
Yeah, as a state-based action is buried.
Oh, so like destroy can't be regenerated?
I believe so. Ben might be able to correct me.
I think it just leaves play, like no sacrifice or destruction.
So move to the graveyard.
Yeah,
based action.
Yeah,
very interesting. So yeah, possibly some powerful removal. Ever since they changed the legend rule, I remember the good old days of Canadian Highlander where you could just clone to get rid of stuff. And this is interesting.
Image was in all
playing clones
before that.
I miss those days. I mean, maybe it'll come back now that we've got more world enchantments in the meta. All right, let's move on to our next card, Sara Paladin. This is a 4-mana 2/2 Paladin for 2 white or ancient 2 mana. Tap, prevent 1 damage to any creature or player, and for 1 white and tap, attacking this turn does not cause target creature to tap. Interesting. What do you think, Ben?
I mean, there's kind of a theme about having these nice utility top end cards for white. And I think Sara Paladin interacts with them pretty favorably. Also, just like really stacking on the damage prevention. Again, you're not going to play it because it's a summon Paladin, but you're not going to, say no to it showing up being another summon Paladin in your deck. The only thing that I would be worried about is that artwork. Is just a little it kind of throws me off because I tap my permanents to the left, but it makes me feel like I should tap them to the right. But other than that, I feel in general the card has some merit.
Good art by Pete Venters, but yeah, I can see what you mean.
Does Phyrexian Arena deal damage to you, or do you lose life from it?
I think you lose life, but you could probably make an argument that this could prevent the damage, or rather the life loss.
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to say that this is a great way to break the symmetry of like Sulfuric Vortex.
Very interesting.
Really pulls it all together.
All right, let's move to our last white card we're going to talk about here. Saraya the Falconer. This is a 3-mana 2/2 for 1 white, summon legend, and all falcons get +1/+1, and additionally, activated ability 1 and a white, target falcon gains banding until end of turn. Alex, what do you think?
You wouldn't think that a non-flyer would have a place in the flyers deck, but like the pump is huge. There's more falcons than you might expect that are playable in like mono white skies or blue white skies, or just like I don't know the falcon deck, and like banding a bunch of flyers together to go upstairs is just like it's like holding both your hands together for that axe handle chop.
We didn't cover them necessarily because I mean they're just role player cards. But like, there's also just a bunch of falcons in this set that are kind of like auto includes. Like, there's at least one, and it's pretty good. So,
quick question, Alex. We often talk about the downside of Legends, of having to play around Caracas. Is it worth it to play Sariah?
I think it's an occupational hazard. Like if they're using their Caracas to bounce this, you're not so put out because then your like legendary flyers are not being targeted,
or your Hastur.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So like it could maybe just be a lightning rod for activations on the land.
All right, well, let's move over to blue cards right here. And first up, we have a spicy card, Aether Storm, 4-mana enchantment for 3 and a blue. And it says, no summon spells may be cast. Any player may pay 4 life to bury Aether Storm. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. Now, I'm going to take this one myself, and I love this card, both in Enchantress, like a more of a control-y version as opposed to Sanctum Stop. You've even seen me piloting lately, and possibly even in a blue prison shell, maybe like a red black or red black blue, sorry, blue black or blue black red version, maybe off Academy, that it's going to lock your opponent out of being able to cast those spells. And can you imagine playing this against something like Blue Moon, and they get their Empyrean in play, and all of a sudden they can't cast spells, and their life total can't change, so they can't pay 4 life to bury it?
Yeah.
This is the type of sweet revenge that I've been waiting for to hate out Blue Moon just for years now. I'm very excited.
Isn't there like a mono blue prison deck called like Blue Chip Stacks?
Ooh, we could put it in the Stasis deck too. Oh wow, Alex, yeah,
What's the nut?
the juices are going. I'm starting to brew around this. I like this a lot. All right, let's move on to our next blue card here, Chain Stasis. Chain Stasis is a 1-mana blue instant for a single blue and says, tap or untap target creature. Whenever any player uses Chain Stasis to tap or untap a creature, that creature's controller may pay 2 and a blue to use Chain Stasis to tap or untap any target creature. Ben, what do you think?
This feels kind of just like a slam dunk in any deck that can generate enough mana to use it. It's again this new templating that we're seeing on cards like this, where you can target your own creature. You don't have to target a new thing. So as long as you have a creature that can tap for at least 4 blue, then you're able to go infinite with this. And I mean, getting a creature to tap for 4 blue is the easy part. It's finding a payoff that isn't a Paradox Engine or something big and clunky. Whereas Chain Stasis, you can also just like, this does a thing other than combo killing, and that's kind of what I always look for combo decks, is some flexibility.
Chain Stasis comes out of nowhere. Like, if you're paying 6 for an enchantment like Paradox Engine, your opponent's going to see this coming. But much like Flash Hulk, their shields go down. Bam, you hit them with Chain Stasis, there's your infinite.
Yeah, once they go Chain Stasis, as long as you announce that you're copying it quick enough, they can't do anything.
Oh.
Yeah. This I am getting a second chance to talk about Jeskai Ascendancy with this card. Like, this has got to be a thing, because it like triggers and you get an untap off of it, right?
Yeah, this is everything you want for that deck.
Yeah,
now it's pretty bananas.
Jer, you play a lot of Wilderness Reclamation, with the untap on the stack. Do you see sort of a similar use case for something like this?
Well, Wilderness Rec is looking to abuse lands. But I mean, potentially, but I think the place for this has got to be something like closer to Jeskai Ascendancy,
okay.
Something where the engine is creatures as opposed to lands.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next card here, and I got to say, I love the art. Coral Reef, blue enchantment for blue. When Coral Reef comes into play, put 4 polyp counters on it, pay 0 and sacrifice an island to put 2 polyp counters on Coral Reef, so you have an ability to sort of refill it, and pay a blue, tap target blue creature you control, and remove a polyp counter from Coral Reef to put a +0/+1 counter on any creature. Very interesting. Alex, tell me about this booty coral here.
Now, you'd think that this was something to pump your team, and it may have some utility in like the blue-white defenders deck.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, I hate to say it, but this is sort of like strictly better. What's the name of that white card with fading?
Hasdur the Abbot?
No. The enchantment. The Germans love it.
Parallax Wave.
Parallax Wave. That's the one. Yeah, the Parallax Wave, which is like the one that you can blink stuff. This one, I mean, Jerry, you've played a lot of opposition decks, right?
I sure have.
Yeah, like How do you like opposition, except that like you can refill it,
I would enjoy that.
right?
Yeah, seems sick. And for
Yeah.
half the cost too. Like,
Yeah, I mean it's like the mana cost is way lower, so
yeah.
you know your chance of getting it out and online is just like much higher.
Well, just like on the play, like they need to have like spell pierce, spell snare, or a force, whereas like opposition's getting hit by literally every counter spell in their deck.
Comes down too late. So you're seeing this, Alex, in more of a control deck. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, also you can just like there's a little bit of chicanery you can get into with like declare blockers, booty pump, and you don't
Yeah.
care about them being tapped.
And it's worth mentioning it is a +0/+1 counter, which we haven't seen before. So it's permanently going to get bigger. Very interesting.
Mhm.
Possibly in the proliferate deck. Anyways, let's move on to the next card here. We have a blue sorcery called Forget. So for blue, target player chooses and discards 2 cards from their hand. If that player does not have enough cards in hand, their entire hand is discarded, powerful, and the player then draws as many cards as they discarded this way. Jer, what do you think?
This card's really interesting. Primarily, you're just going to be using it to target yourself as kind of like a rummage effect, which is, fine. Card filtration lets you sort of ditch cards that are maybe somewhat situational, something like a Latinam's Legacy. But the interesting part about this card is it says target player. So if your combo opponent has spent a bunch of the game tutoring, you've traded off some cards 1-for-1 with counter spells or hand attack, they tap out to tutor, go down to a couple cards left in hand, you can actually target them and force them to discard their payload for 2 random cards, which is a really interesting use case, I think.
Yeah, I like the flexibility there.
Sorry, what card were we talking about?
Forget.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's the I think one thing that people might miss out on as well is that they only draw the cards if they ended up discarding them. So like if you're using it on your opponent and they have 0 cards in hand, then they're not going to draw anything. So like you kind of get around the downside of the card by using it when they're hellbent, which isn't too difficult to hit. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next card here, Giant Albatross. You're going to be excited about this, Alex. It's another flyer. So for 1 and a blue, you get a 1/1 Albatross. Has flying. For 1 and a blue, bury all creatures that damage Giant Albatross this turn. The controller of any of those creatures may pay 2 life to prevent that creature from being buried. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. However, use this ability only when Giant Albatross is put into the graveyard from play. What do you think, Alex?
I think this combos with lure so hard.
Oh.
I think it's crazy. Like you just throw a lure on this, you crash into all their flyers, and you wipe out their whole board.
Wow, good.
And
swing play.
And your other flyers are able to get through.
I like it that they're probably not expecting a Wrath of God in like a blue-green deck like that, and
No.
I think you're going to catch a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, especially a Wrath of God that's like sorcery speed and costs like what, 5?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's cheap.
All right, next up we have Giant Oyster. So for 4 mana, you get an 0/3, 2 and a blue Oyster. You may choose not to untap Giant Oyster during your untap phase. For tap, target tapped creature does not untap during its controller's untap phase as long as Giant Oyster remains tapped. During your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on that creature. If Giant Oyster becomes untapped or leaves play, remove all those counters from the creature. Jer, what do you think?
I think this is my pick for the best card in the set for Highlander.
Already.
I think it just makes cards like Vitalcan Shackles just like obsolete.
Huh.
Like you don't have the island like clause
restriction.
Like,
yeah,
Shackles doesn't block.
You can play it in. Well, this is probably going to stay tapped, but yeah, like if they have a haste creature, this has the ability to block and then eat it.
So there's an old land called Ice Flow, which does something kind of similar. How do you? But Ice Flow, of course, doesn't kill the creature. What do you compare?
Well, exactly.
Giant Oyster.
That's what I mean. Like often with cards like Ice Flow or Shackles, you're worried about taking like something that's kind of weaker only to give it back to them later. But this card, you actively want to do that because you'll take the weaker thing, kill it off, and then take the bigger thing, then kill that off.
Huh.
And it just keeps chugging.
Earth to R&D, maybe blue didn't need a Goblin Sharpshooter.
Yeah, wow, fair enough.
Yeah.
Huh, the power creep in this set is kind of getting off the chains. All right, let's move on to what could be the new big finisher for blue, Mary Jane. So we have a 7-mana 8/8 here for 5 blue, Summon Serpent. Does not untap during your untap phase. It cannot attack if defending player controls no islands. If at any time you control no islands, bury it. And for blue, sacrifice a creature to untap Mary Jane. Use this ability only during your upkeep. And for blue, -1/-0 until end of turn. Mary Jane deals 1 damage to target attacking creature without flying.
Good
Wow.
gravy.
Jer, what do you think?
I think if you call it Mary Jane one more time, you're going to be that shrimp in the art.
That's a whale.
That's a whale. That's how big it is.
Yeah, a whale in shrimp's clothing. Yeah, this. I mean, if you get to the point in the game where you can stick Marjan, it's lights out, game over. Even if your opponent isn't on blue, so it's not able to attack, it's incredibly powerful on defense. Maybe eventually you'll be able to donate an island to them to turn it on for attacking, and then it's an insanely quick clock. So
even if your opponent doesn't have an island too, like how often do you get a blue creature that can just untap itself for basically no cost? Like if you slap like a Hermetic Study on Mahjong, then they're just going to like slowly lose and not be able to attack through your big dump.
That's another thing we didn't point out yet, is that it's a really valuable sack outlet in blue, which we haven't seen.
You know what? You know what Marjoram is really good with? Reef Worm. Like, I've always wanted to play that card, and you can use the sack ability on Reef Worm and just make it bigger and bigger.
Now, I know we normally don't like having a cost associated, but what do we think of Margarine and Aristocrats?
Ooh, yeah. You sacrifice Uro with the no escape trigger on the stack.
Yeah,
that's a lot of value. This may be the card that pushes blue as one of the best supporting colors for Aristocrats.
Interesting. Yep. All right, let's move on to our next card here, Memorylapse. So for 1 and a blue, we get an interrupt, counter target spell, put that spell on top of its owner's library. Jer, what do you think?
This card's really great. People will see it as card negative, but that's actually incorrect because you're forcing them to draw the card. So it's card parity, super efficient. I love it. It's a staple for sure.
Awesome. And we normally don't cover reprints, but what do you think about Memorylapse? So 1 and a blue for an interrupt, counter target spell, put that spell on top of its owner's library. And I'm going to throw this to you, Jer.
I really love it. It's really efficient. People are going to see it as card negative, but since it puts the card back on top of its owner's library, it's actually card parity. It's just a staple for sure.
Ah, fantastic. All right, let's move on to Merchant Scroll. 2-mana sorcery for 1 and a blue. Search your library for a blue instant or interrupt. Reveal that card to all players and put it into your hand, then reshuffle your library afterwards. I'm going to throw it to you again, Jer.
This card's super powerful. I could honestly see it getting a point. The ability to find like combo cards for control decks to find recall, getting Memorylapse, like super efficient card, not card negative at all.
For those at home, what does Memorylapse do?
Yeah, so it's 1 and a blue interrupt, counter target spell. If it's countered this way, put it on top of its owner's library.
Now, it's interesting to note that there's another card called Merchant Scroll that was originally printed in 8th edition, and that one is pointed. Yeah. Do you think this Homelands copy could also get pointed?
I want to chime in here as I just received a notification from the other counselors that due to the similarities between the Homelands Merchant Scroll and the 8th edition Merchant Scroll, the Homelands Merchant Scroll has now earned 1 point.
Is that the
Wow.
fastest pointing in the history of the format?
It's close between this and Underworld Breach, but I think it ekes out.
It makes sense since this is a black bordered version, so it's strictly better, really.
Yeah, you're gonna find your card a lot quicker.
Huh. All right, let's move on to, this is exciting, another enchant world here. Mystic Decree, 4 mana enchant world for 2 blue. All creatures lose flying and gain island walk. Wow. All right, I'm going to take this one too. Can anybody say combos with moat?
Oh, man.
The hard,
It's kind of just a hard lock.
Yeah.
I don't know how you lose with that right there. Like, so moat is a 4-mana enchantment that creatures with flying, without flying can't attack. And all of a sudden, Mystic Decree makes it so that creatures lose flying and island walk. This is the dream for your Enchantress player, or possibly even control decks. Just sit back, GG.
Moat is one of those cards where, like, admittedly, I think people might give it a bit too much respect. Like, if somebody slams a moat against me, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna, kill you with any of my flyers or my falcons or whatever. But if somebody goes moat into Mystic Decree, like, what do? You have to start packing disenchants now.
It's also important to note that moat is not an enchant world, so these two do play very well with each other. Yeah.
So stupid.
All right, let's talk about our final blue card today. And I got to say, I love the art. Narwhal.
Oh, Narwhal in the ocean.
4 mana 2/2 for 2 blue. First strike, protection from red. Wow. Jer, what do you think?
It's just a brick wall against the mono red decks. They're on almost 0 outs to beat it. It's a little bit more expensive than Core Firewalker, but then you don't need to put white in your deck. So
yeah, it's in blue.
I think the commotion this is going to cause against mono red is unreal.
It's even got Ancient Tombs mana stapled to it. So since you're improving your mono red matchup so much, if you want to add Ancient Tomb into your deck, I think that's pretty reasonable, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do need to point out, back on Mystic Decree, the creatures also lose Island Walk. I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah, just like any other ways you might have of evading your way through are just gone.
Yeah, sorry to go back to a quick sec here. I'm just rereading Mystic Decree, and the more I read this card, the more I love it. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to black cards here, and I'm very excited. Now, Baron Sengir. 8 mana 5/5 for 5 black, summon legend. Now, unfortunately, despite the art and the flavor, not a vampire, just a legend. Whenever a creature is put into the graveyard, the same turn Baron Sengir damaged it, put a +2/+2 counter on the Baron, and tap, regenerate target vampire. Ben, what do you think?
So we're going to kind of see this come up a lot in the set, not to give spoilers or anything, but a lot of the cards that you think would be vampires are actually just summon legends. So the tap isn't super relevant, but aside from Caracas, like, how do you beat this card? Like, if a control player they're like turn 18 and they slam this, like, what are you going to do? My only other complaint is that the +2/+2 counters don't synergize very well with like hardened scales.
Sure.
But I think that's kind of like, you'll probably play it anyways in a counters deck just for the like proliferate you find here.
It still works with Winding Constrictor, notably though.
Yeah, it works with other ones. It's just with the namesake cards that you're going to get to keep in your opening hand as a beginning of game action. It doesn't work with, but I mean, it's an 8 drop, so you're going to get your other cards before you cast this anyways.
Hey Wheeler, I've got 2 words for you. Doubling Season.
Doubling Season is the exact kind of card I like to play in Highlander.
It's going to get out of control.
Yeah, it's a bit much.
All right, next up, Black Carriage. 5 mana 4/4 Carriage for 3 black, has trample, does not untap during your untap phase, and for 0 and sacrifice a creature, untap Black Carriage, use this ability only during your upkeep. Wheeler, back to you.
Sandy B. You can play this in Aristocrats too. I think that deck is more or less maxed out on the amount of carriages it wants to play. But like, I'm willing to, if I'm playing like Finalia Devastation, tutoring this up isn't exactly difficult. And your like mid-range beatdown plan is pretty big to have a trampler that doesn't die to terror.
Huh.
Or bold.
Yeah, that it's just like doesn't die to all the things your opponents are going to be playing multiple copies of, and does everything you want to do.
All right, next up we have Broken Visage, 5 mana instant for 4 black. Bury target non-artifact creature. Bury target non-artifact attacking creature and put a shadow token into play. Treat this token as a black creature with power and toughness equal to the power and toughness of that attacking creature. Bury the shadow token at the end of turn. Jer, what do you think?
So there's several huge things about this card. It's an instant, first of all.
Yeah.
It doesn't say non-black, so you can take out Baron Senjir, for example.
Yeah.
If he's
Rude.
attacking. And it's a 3-for-1, like every time. You killed their creature, you get a creature to block with, and you killed their best creature, so it's eating another creature.
Are you playing this over Go for the Throat?
Almost certainly every time, just for the blowout potential.
I think this is better than Malicious Affliction.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean it's so easy to splash too. Only the single black pip in what is typically a greedy color. So I don't know what they were thinking with this mana cost, honestly, but
worth noting that it being 5 CMC is pretty relevant because you can transmute Brain Spoil for it. So like if you've got a Brain Spoil kind of rotting in your hand because they have like enchanted creatures or whatnot, this will get, you could always just cash it in and find something that's easier on your mana too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if you pass with 5 mana up, they basically just can't attack now.
What are you ever going to do?
Huh. Next up, Grandmother Segner, 5 mana 3/3 legend. So again, not a vampire. 1 and a black tap. Target creature gets -1/-1. Jer.
Just another house in the black mid-range decks. Once again, with the mana cost, super easy to splash. Same with the activation cost. So you only ever need the one black to turn this on. And it just means anything with 3 toughness or less basically can't attack. 3 power or less can't attack. And it pings off all the little critters. Ben, is repeatable -1/-1 effects good in Highlander?
Okay.
I can't remember.
Okay. Well,
Could you remind us?
Alex,
maybe able to
you try to bring Camel Tribal to one Friday night Papier fight, and all of a sudden it just sticks with you for the rest of your life. Okay, no, I deserve it. I deserve it.
All right, let's spare your feelings and let's move on to something that's just going to absolutely roast my feelings. And I don't know if there's been a hoser card more laser targeted to hurt somebody since the oof. And this time they're coming for me instead of Wheeler. Irene Senior, 4 mana 2/2 for 2 black. It's a legend and it reads white enchantments and green enchantments each cost an additional 2 to cast. Are you kidding me? Alex, what do you think?
That's messed up. I think this card is completely... Oh, sorry. My fan just came on. 1 second. 1 sec. Yeah, Irene Sengir is just like the worst possible hoser you could have against Enchantress.
Watsy, I'm hurt. I'm devastated.
So was your fan coming on just like a symbol for you being a fan of this card, Alex?
Whoa, it was a coincidence, but I'll take that.
All right, next up, Koskin Falls, 4 mana enchant world for 2 black. So we see a bit of a cycle here. During your upkeep, tap target untapped creature you control or bury Koskin Falls. No creature can attack you unless its controller pays an additional 2 whenever that creature attacks. Now this is exciting. For a long time, black has been kind of a weird color in Enchantress. It didn't have a lot of the it didn't have a lot of the tax effects that you sort of saw in white and blue with your, help me out here.
Propaganda.
Propaganda effects. Yeah.
Hasdra the Abbot.
So propaganda in black, it's a little bit more expensive, but you know what? I love it. I think it's going to be an auto-include in that archetype.
Well, like Highlander's always looking for extra copies of an effect if it's good enough.
Totally.
So...
All right, looks like we have one of our final. Oh, I'm mistaken. We have more Seigneurs to talk about. Seigneur Autocrat, 4 mana 2/2, summon Autocrat. Also not a vampire, but Autocrat's a pretty relevant creature type here. When it comes into play, put 3 Surf tokens into play. Treat them as 0/1 black creatures. If Seigneur Autocrat leaves play, bury all Surfs. Alex.
Was this a Future Sight card? Because I swear I've seen this before.
I think it may have been a test card in Mystery Boosters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's possible.
4 bodies for 4 mana.
That's ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely bonkers in Aristocrats. It's just
slam dunk
so many
for
bodies.
Sure.
Or anything that's like, if you're going wide with like pump effects, so, tokens, any sort of effect that increases power by even 1 point is going to make this card like 3-6 power for 4. That's nuts.
It also is a leaves play, so it's not even destroyed. So if you play it in like the Autocrat Blink deck, you're just going to be able to repeatedly make a bunch of Surfs as long as you ignore the second triggered ability.
Cool. All right, and this is a card I'm pretty excited to discuss with the whole team. Tamarian Fiends, 3 mana 1/1 for 1 black, summon Fiend. Remove it from your deck before playing it, if not playing for ante. Now, for black, sacrifice it to bury target artifact that any opponent... Hold on, there's so many words on this card, I'm having trouble reading it all here.
I mean, more words
just
means
got
better
through Questing Beast.
Yeah.
We didn't need another Questing
So
Beast.
let me try this again. Black, sacrifice it to bury target artifact that any opponent owns in your graveyard. Put Tamarian Fiends into that opponent's graveyard. This change in ownership is permanent. The opponent may ante an additional card to counter this effect. This is powerful. What do you think, everyone?
It's bananas. Like, the threat of having this in your deck is just going to make all the Paradox players stay home.
Huh.
Well, not to mention Storm players. The potential to get a Lotus out of this is pretty...
Yeah, it's just like, forget it. Skip the tournament.
Like Oof was bad enough, and now we have to deal with Tamarian Fiends.
Well,
It's just kind of
they
wild.
finally answered the black artifact hate question.
Yeah.
This is an absolute statement from Wizards.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, despite us liking it, it turns out that this card is banned in Vintage and therefore also banned in Canadian Highlander. So as much as we love it, probably not going to get a chance
Makes
to
a
play
lot
it
of
there.
sense on it.
Smart. Yeah, for sure. Good.
Let's move to our last black card here, Eldraine of Seigneur. 7 mana 5/5 summon legend for 5 black, and activated ability 1 black, Forest Walk, and -3/-0 until end of turn. Alex.
So is that him in the foreground or the background?
Why not both?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because like I figured that the guy in the foreground was maybe like his brother or something, because like he's really, really big. A 5/5 is going to be the size of that mountainside.
That's fair. Interesting.
Worth noting that it's not the wolves. The wolves depicted on the art are not the creature.
No.
Huh. Maybe that is him getting smaller. He activates the ability, gets tiny, and gets Forest Walk. And so that's actually, it's a shape-shifting ability?
Yeah, that sense.
Yeah, that adds up.
That makes a lot
All
of
right.
sense.
Well, let's move on to red cards. First up, we have Aysen Ruins. Aysen Ruins is a 4-mana enchantment for 2 red, choose a creature type. Creatures of that type do not untap during their controller's untap step. Jer, wow.
Well, we've already talked about sort of the incidental tribal synergies in this set, and a little bit of a spoiler, there's going to be some more prominent ones moving forward, and this card absolutely hoses them. Lots of relevant tap abilities, as we've seen the damage prevention in white. Lots of relevant other activated abilities coming out later, and this just absolutely stymies them, halts them in their tracks, and it's not even a world enchantment, so it's not easy to remove.
Wow.
All right, next up, NAPA Ancestor. 2 mana 1/1 ghost for 1 and a red. Tap target Minotaur. Gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Alex, what do you think?
Could they have possibly followed Theros with anything better than more Minotaurs?
Huh.
Card's bananas. Like,
well, let me add to that really quickly here, because NAPA Spirit Crafter is a 4 mana 1/3 for 2 red. All Minotaurs get +1/+0.
Yeah, I mean, it's not usual that we get like playable in a set for a tribal deck, much less like 2 in a row.
Huh.
Yeah, these cards are great. Their mana cost is not high. It's gonna probably make like red black minotaurs a thing in our format.
It's not even counting like the number of extremely efficient 4-drop and 5-drop minotaurs that are just in this set that can be bodies to just get bigger from the other cards.
Bodies you can body your opponent with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, we have Chandler. 5 mana 3/3 for 4 and a red. Summon legend.
Oh, sorry, my phone. There you go. Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, rookie mistake. Mute your phone. Chandler, 5 mana 3/3 for 4 and a red. Summon legend. Red, and tap. Destroy target artifact creature. Ben, what do you think?
Well, for starters, it's one of the easiest dragons to play because it's only 1 red. Doesn't have haste, doesn't have flying, doesn't have a lot of power or toughness, but being able to just blow up any opposing like lodestone golems that might be keeping you off of your 6 drops or 7 drops. It's very easy to use the ability too once you get your blood moon down, or if you want to cash in like a desperate ritual.
Like this is like out against Workshop Weenie, right?
Yeah, it's able to just like get rid of any Hovermere, which is pretty important.
It's the linchpin of the deck, yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to ignore a card that deals with one of the best threats in the format, you know?
All right, let's move on to, and I love this card, Dwarven Pony. For a single red pip, you get a 1/1 pony, and 1 in a red, tap target dwarf. Gains Mountain Walk until end of turn. Alex, what do you think?
Dwarfs are such a powerful archetype, or tribe, that's gotten tons of support. I think they're going like way over the top. We're going to have a dwarf deck with cards like this. Like, it's 1 red. It's bananas.
Huh.
We do, I mean, this is enough dwarves to make dwarves a thing. Not it's already a thing, but to make it like tier 1.5 or whatever.
You can play 7 dwarves in your deck.
Yeah. And then once we get to the Somerset Otaria Rising, we're going to get more dwarves.
Yeah,
it's just going to happen.
Remind people, the card 7 dwarves overrides the Highlander singles rule.
Yeah.
Let me get the text actually, because you can play. Yeah, okay. So 7 dwarves, 1 in a red for 2/2. 7 dwarves gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck can have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarves.
Wow.
So, like, when this was spoiled, it was just like, oh, you get to play 7 copies of this card.
This is just better than Pack Rat, isn't it? When you're talking.
Yeah. What's relevant too is that you get to play 7 additional copies of 7 dwarves, but because of a printing error, it's not each instance of that card lets you do it, so it stacks like infinitely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty big brain.
Huh. All right, let's move on to Aaron the Relentless. 5 mana 5/2 for 3 red, summon legend. When Aaron the Relentless can attack the turn it comes into play on your side. Aaron the Relentless can attack the turn it comes into play on your side.
It sounds a little bit like haste.
I needed to reread the templating there. It's very interesting. It might have some interesting edge cases around haste. We'll have to really dive into that when the set actually fully comes out. And for red, regenerate. Alex, what do you think of Aaron?
Regenerate what, though?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's another.
Can it regenerate anything?
One. It might be able to. Wow.
That's
like pretty good.
That's nuts. Like, if that's because it's not a tap ability. If you could regenerate anything, because it doesn't specify a target.
No, it doesn't. Wow.
It's worth. I mean, the fact that it's not a tap ability too, because this is the one big difference between haste and can attack the turn it comes into play in on your side, is that if it were a tap ability, you wouldn't be able to do it because Aaron can only attack.
Right.
But like, tap ability. You just get to. I mean, pumping 3 red into that activated ability is super easy to do, even on the turn it comes into play.
All right, next up we have a Heart Wolf. 4 mana 2/2, summon wolf for 3 and a red. Ancient Tomb, anyone? Has first strike. And tap target dwarf, gains first strike and gets +2/+0 until end of turn. If that dwarf leaves play, bury the Heartwolf. Use this ability only when attack or defense is announced. Alex.
See, like I said, dwarves are going to be the number one tribe out of this set. It's like +2/+0 as a combat trick is huge. Like, you attack with a bunch of your 7 dwarves, they can't block all of them. The one that gets through, it's a free shock.
Very cool. Joven, our next card, is a 5-mana legend for 3 red, gets you a 3/3, and for red, and tap, destroy target non-artifact creature. Ben?
Ben?
Ben, you've muted your microphone.
Oh, sorry, I was too busy. I'm making breakfast for my community church. It's Joven is one of these cards where, like, if you're going to naturally compare it to Chandler, and Chandler's only ever killing any artifact creature, whereas Joven can only kill a non artifact creature. So you're limited to like animated cannons or Aether Sworn canonist. But I think that like the it's easier to cast than Chandler because this requires 2 red instead of 1.
Yeah, red deck likes that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're probably playing both. Yeah. Like, you can make a comparison, but I mean, at the end of the day, again, you're probably playing both.
All right.
Can I say he's a handsome man?
Oh, yeah. And the final red card we're going to talk about today, Winter Sky. For a single red pip sorcery, flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tail while the coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in your favor, Winter Sky deals 1 damage to each creature and player. Otherwise, everyone draws a card. What do you think of that, Wheeler?
So I was pretty high on Mana Clash for a long time, and this just feels a bit more reliable, which I don't know if that's what you want when you're playing.
I love coin flip cards so much.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to steal this one from you, Alex, but
no, it's okay. Like, I mean, I've got my foiled Kark's Thumb, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think this is obviously an auto include in the coin flip deck. I would probably try it out in a spell heavy red deck too, maybe even Blue Moon.
Sure.
But you can Spell Seeker for this, you could Personal Tutor for it, but I don't know. It looks incredibly playable. I just have to see how bad it is when when I flip tails.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to green. First up, we have Anhava Constable. 3 mana gets you a 2/1+ for 1 green, and it's a creature type constable. Anhava Constable has toughness equal to 1 plus the total number of green creatures in play. Ooh. Alex, what do you think?
The biggest booty in the game.
Interesting to follow this up after Devotion.
Yeah? I mean, like, because
this counts tokens. This is even more powerful than Devotion in the right deck.
Well, exactly. Like, it's like you get your insect tokens, you get elves, you get there's a bunch of squirrels.
Oh my god.
You play this alongside your hermits.
Yeah.
Like Deep Forest Hermit and Deranged Hermit. And then it just gets the biggest booty imaginable. I'm gonna blow your mind here. I think that there's a Doran deck that wants to play this guy.
Wow.
Doran wall tokens.
I love it.
Like, you play what's the name of that there's a planeswalker that makes 0/3 walls.
Hasdur the Abbot.
And then Huatley is also a great way to sort of booty people too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Just mono booty beatdown.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, the Constable of Booty. All right, let's move on to Autumn Willow. 6 mana 4/4 legend for 4 green. Cannot be the target of spells or effects. Interesting. And for a green, target player may target Autumn Willow with spells or effects until end of turn. Jer, what do you think?
It's another big finisher, and if they're not playing green in their deck, they're just unable to activate the ability, so it just has Shroud, which will probably be the case most of the time. So, yeah, huge finisher with Shroud. Great in a control deck.
Just to cut in, we may need a citation on this, but like, cannot be the target of spells or effects that may include game losses.
Huh.
So
I think as per comp rules 609, game losses are not considered an effect.
oh,
But if there's an effect that causes you to lose the game, then you're fine.
Cool.
sweet.
And something that's actually going to go really well with Autumn Willow is, of course, Daughter of Autumn. 4 mana 2/4 for 2 green, Ancient Tomb, Summon Legend, and for a white mana, redirect to Daughter of Autumn, 1 damage dealt to a white creature. Jer, what do you think of the Autumn deck?
Well, it's clearly going to be a green-white deck, primarily white splashing for the willow, the autumn willows rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, and since autumn willow has shroud, the fact that the redirect ability only works on white creatures is pretty much irrelevant. The 4 toughness means the ability is going to be turned on most of the time. Makes combat a nightmare for your opponent.
Nice. All right, next up, Fairy Noble, 3 mana 1/2 for 2 and a green. Summon Noble, has flying. All fairies you control get +0/+1. Tap all fairies you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Wheeler, what do you think?
This just, I mean, slam dunk in the fairy deck. It's nice to see green get more support because, I mean, you're going to get most of your fairies in blue, but you're getting your best fairies in green.
Are we just not going to talk about Scrib Sprites?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many available, and again, there's too many for us to include in the set review. But like, trust me, this Fairy Noble is going to be giving at least like 3 to 4 toughness, hands down.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Do you think this is the birth of maybe a new green-blue fairies deck?
I think it could happen. There's support for it. Like, there's got to be plenty of green fairies, or at least enough to make a deck around. There's what's the name of it? It's the one with Flash.
Scrib Ranger, or did we already say that one?
No, I said Scrib Sprites. It might be Scrib Ranger.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, it's Scrib Ranger. 1 and a green, 1/1 Flash, flying, protection from blue, and it has the untap ability if you bounce something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one. Haster.
You can get Argothian Pixies, Fire Sprites. I think like Moon Sprite is playable in this deck. Uktabi Fairy. Like, it just goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. After the fairy, we have Hungry Mist. Ooh, wow. 4 mana 6/2 for 2 green, summon Mist. During your upkeep, pay green, or bury it, but it's a 6/2. Ben, what do you think?
So it hits kind of the sweet spot of having 2 toughness where, Lightning Bolt, Incinerate, Searing Spear, like that's all doing 3 damage. Flame Slash 4 damage.
Yeah, they're leaving damage on the table.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad value to hit it with any of that. Obviously, if they Arc Trail and they click it properly, then it's going to fall to that. But I think the 6 power makes up for all that.
It's Ball Lightning.
Yeah, it's just another ball. It's the green ball lightning that we've been looking for.
Oh, that's so good. And Ancient 2 mana comes down on turn 3. That's a powerful early threat.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's move on to Joven's Ferrets here. For a single green, you get a 1/1 Ferret. If declared as an attacker, Joven's Ferrets gets +0/+2 until end of turn. At end of combat, tap any creature that blocked the Ferrets. Those creatures do not untap during their controller's next untap phase. Alex, what do you think?
I'll play a 1/3 for 1 that like browns my opponent's board. All day.
Early threat in like the Gruul aggro deck?
I think you play this in any like Green X aggro deck. Because
Black Mold?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like you either block this and you lose a blocker next turn, or you don't, and then it's 1 damage unblockable.
Huh. I like it.
Before you put like Rancor and swords and stuff on it, right?
And it's like,
oh,
what
wow.
now?
All right, next up we have Primal Order, 4 mana enchantment for 2 green. During each player's upkeep, Primal Order deals 1 damage to that player for each non-basic land they control. Yeah, don't mind me, but I'm going to take this. Wow, anybody wanted to see Blood Moon in green? Holy moly. Like, forget locking them out of casting spells. Just kill them for their greed. Oh my god, I love this.
Yeah, it's just like one of those cards where it's easy enough to cast too that like might as well just splash it in Blue Moon just to
Yeah.
really get the density up.
Just
Get
range
that
them.
message across, right? If you play non-basics against me, you will get punished. And as the premier lands player in the format, it is painful to see another really powerful hoser like this get out there, but I like it. I like
I
it.
would, in mono red, I would splash double green for this card.
Yeah. Wow.
It just murders them.
I think it even has a faster clock than Sulfuric Vortex.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it could just one-shot them. It's like, play this, pass, you die.
Well, it's a way better top deck too.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the Badgers. The Rhysorian Badgers, to be exact. 3 mana gets you a 2/2 for 2 and a green, summon Badger. If the Badger attacks and is not blocked, you may choose to have it deal no damage to defending player this turn. If you do, remove from the game up to 2 creatures from that player's graveyard. Gain 1 life for each creature removed this way. Jer, what do you think of the Badger?
It's an interesting one. It's sort of along the lines of like Scavenging Ooze, Death George Scavenger, that type of thing. Except it's a little more innocuous, so I think you're going to get in with it more and trigger its ability. So I think it's a solid include if you're looking for another one of those effects.
I think this is going to make Badger Tribal a thing.
Yeah?
Like, Charging Badger, this thing, what's the Chameleon Colossus?
Oh,
Yeah, no, that deck's happening.
Charging Badger, that's a funny card.
Right?
God, if anybody has any copies of Charging Badger, send them immediately. Like, we'll take them.
Yeah, that would be awesome if you could do that to us.
As many as you have, please.
Yeah.
And our final green card we're going to talk about today is the Willow Priestess. 4 mana 2/2 for 2 green. Summon
Kitty.
Fairy. Summon Fairy.
He's got
and
a kitty.
Take a fairy from your hand and put it directly into play as though it was just summoned. Wow.
What?
Yeah, 2 and a green. Target green creature gains protection from black until end of turn. Wheeler.
So this is an auto include in, obviously the Susan Van Camp deck, as well as just Fairy Tribal. I don't think there's much to say on that. It's nice that you can, unless you have multiple copies of like Fairy Noble buffing your team, your worst matchup is like Infest. But then you could just protect your Fairy Nobles with this ability, giving them pro black so that they don't die, so that everything else doesn't die. Absolute.
Well, it's like you also like flash
auto-include.
in a Lord.
Like, that's
insanity.
That's pretty good.
Pretty
All
good.
Right. And let's move on to a couple of colorless cards here. First up, and I know Alex is going to be very excited about this. We've been talking about Minotaur Tribal. We'll check out Didgeridoo. 1 mana artifact. Pay 3. Take a Minotaur from your hand and put it directly into play as though it were just summoned.
I
Alex.
really wish this worked on dwarves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would put this card over the top. Like, obviously it's good in the Minotaur deck, but like dwarves is obviously just going to be better.
Like, if this hit something like elves or goblins and was like uncounterable too, it'd be like it's good, but what if it also did like 3 damage to any target?
Yeah.
Or like came into play with like 5 loyalty and just made food tokens and stuff. Like this card's got a lot going for it. Maybe it's greedy.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish it just sacked for 3 mana of any one color.
All right, let's go to the last card we're going to cover in the set review today, the Apocalypse Chime. 2 mana artifact. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice the Apocalypse Chime to bury all cards from the Homelands expansion?
Yep.
Oh.
What? All right, Jer, what do you think?
This is just a really heads-up design from Wizards. After the clear mistakes they made in 2019 and even the earlier parts of 2020 in just the power creep, this is the type of card we need to ensure that the power creep is just kept in line, kept in check.
But doesn't it just hose everything that we just
Yeah,
talked
exactly.
It-
Serge,
it's-
this is how
it's a balance thing. Like, if people play around the chime, then you just have a piece of blank cardboard in your deck. But if people go nuts with their Jovens and their giant oysters,
They're Chandlers, oh man.
Yeah.
exactly,
if I may, this
Chime
is the
keep-
free market correcting itself.
exactly.
The invisible hand of Watsy.
It's just an easy way to prevent them from having to ban other cards in, formats that aren't Canadian Highlander singleton. It does invalidate everything that we just covered, but I think that's a good thing.
Huh.
Yeah, probably for the best.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let's pretend like this never happened.
Great.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We're really excited to get a sneak peek on this Homeland set, really filling that void between Theros Beyond Death and Ikoria. Want to thank you so much to my co-hosts for joining me today in the call. Also want to thank you for your support over at the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.